Ready? Okay. All right, good evening and welcome everyone to the regular board meeting of the Truckee-Donner Public Utility District. First meeting of 2025. It is 6:01, January 15th. Sarah, could we get roll call, please?
Director Morrell,
Here.
Director Laliotis.
Here.
Vice President Finn,
Here.
President Bender.
Here.
The record will note Director Randall is absent.
Got it, thank you. All right. Tony, you want to lead us in the pledge?
I can do that.
All right.
Ready? Begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Mr. Wright, any changes to the agenda tonight?
There are no changes this evening.
Got it. Okay, any public comment on any matter not on the agenda tonight?
President Bender, we did receive one public comment through our web portal. District practice has been to print that out for the board. It was a comment from local customer and resident Barney Dewey.
Got it. Thank you.
And he didn't necessarily want it read out loud because I asked him personally. I
Oh,
asked
good,
him.
good. I don't like reading them out
Yeah,
loud either,
I asked
so.
him if he wanted it read out loud. He said, oh, so.
Got it. Thank you, Barney. Okay, now we're on to director update. All right. Do you want to
I
start?
will go first.
Okay.
I've been
All right.
dying to make a director update. It's been a long time. Happy New Year, everybody. I'm super glad to be back here at the beginning, of the circle of the year with you all. I want to welcome our new board member, since it's not members, it will be members. I'm excited to turn the page from politics to governance. It's a nice change, and I am confident that we are going to accomplish really great things in the coming years. I also want to recognize the weight on our hearts with the fires that are burning in LA. I know our mountain community understands very well the loss and the grief that they are experiencing right now, and that we're all going to do all that we can to help provide for some immediate needs that they're experiencing, and also to support them on the long road of change that we know that we're all on together here. Of course, we here at the PUD will continue to do what we do to keep our community safe. We'll continue to harden and improve both our water and electrical distribution systems. We will be vigilant in our vegetation management, meticulous in our work, and we will continue to focus on creative and efficient ways to address the root cause of these increasingly catastrophic natural disasters, the burning of fossil fuels that power our lives at this moment. I know it can feel overwhelming sometimes in these moments. Are our actions consequential? And I would say, of course, yes, they are. All the things that we do are very consequential. Just today, I was listening to a great podcast on fire ecology. I learned a lot of things, words like pyrodiversity and how these contribute to a really amazing and resilient ecology. And the more I learn, the more optimistic I am. Our world is just so rich and complex and resilient, and there are so many people and processes working to help us heal. I can't help but be overwhelmed with hope and gratitude. So, which brings me to some final words I'd like to share. This fall, I took a trip across the country on Amtrak and back, from Truckee to Vermont and back. I had some time to do some reading. I read Braiding Sweetgrass. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend the book and the trip. And in it, there was a section on the Onondaga people's Thanksgiving address. So these are words that are spoken in that culture whenever groups come together for any reason, whether it's celebratory or political, policies, governance. When a group of people come together, they start with this Thanksgiving address, and it's essentially a thank you, a thank you to the world, and it sets the table for interactions that are to come. And I'm just going to read a tiny bit because it was so inspiring and resonated with me so strongly as to how to start any discussion. So today we have gathered, and when we look upon the faces around us, we see that the cycles of life continue. We have been given the duty to live in balance and harmony with each other and all living things. So now let us bring our minds together as one as we give greeting and thanks to each other as people. Now our minds are one. We give thanks to all of the waters of the world for quenching our thirst, for providing strength and nurturing life for all beings. We know its power in many forms: waterfalls and rain, mists and streams, rivers and oceans, snow and ice. We are grateful that the waters are still here and meeting their responsibility to the rest of creation. Can we agree that water is important to our lives and bring our minds together as one and send greetings and thanks to the water? Now our minds are one. And it continues in that way through all of creation, because we are thankful to all of these things. So I just want to invite us all to move into 2025 with this sort of understanding of all of the things that we agree to be thankful for, and to use the power of that unity to help us negotiate the challenges that face us. So thank you for your indulgence on my extra long beginning of the year director's comments. I won't make a habit of it.
Very fitting for water. And the
Tough times.
tough decisions and tough times and places. So thank you. All right. Tony.
All right. Welcome, Director Morrell. Glad to have you on board. And looking forward to your tenure here with Steve as well. So congratulations again. Just a thank you to our staff. I know this time of year, we hopefully avoiding emergencies, and with the lack of weather, we haven't had any significant ones. But with the lack of snow and decent weather, I know they keep grinding away on maintenance and things that they can do since things are still accessible. So I want to thank everyone for continuing their efforts on a daily basis out there. And lastly, just, as Krista alluded to, our hearts go out to what's going on in Los Angeles. It's unfortunate. And, I see there's a lot of things going on that caused that to happen. And, I think it can be kind of summed up as the perfect storm, unfortunately. And I really, I'm confident that we will push forward and we will learn and we will be better and we will all become better at what we do, and how to prepare and how to overcome and be better prepared for these types of disasters. So just that's that.
All right. Thank you. Any updates from the new director?
I do, actually. The new director way down here at the end. I do want to say thank you to my fellow directors for being so welcoming for me and engaging and receptive. I have really felt from, even as a candidate and from the beginning, that you're excited for me. So I feel that, and I'm excited to be part of your team. So thank you for that. Brian, for you and your team, thank you for being open with me to all my inquiries and maybe naive questions. It doesn't matter. I will keep them coming. Keep you on your toes. But thank you for being receptive to me too. And Scott and your crew, IT, for getting me up and running for today. I think I'm pretty well there and feel ready to hit the road running. So I'm excited to be a part of the group and I'm excited for the agenda. So thank you so much.
Excellent. And I haven't set my iPad lock yet.
It was too fast.
All right. Welcome again, and Steve will join us on the next meeting. And, and that takes us to director updates. Ryan.
Department update.
Or, thank you, department updates. I was looking at 7, read 6.
So real quick before we get started, wanted to echo the sentiments. Welcome to Director Morrell and Director Randall. It's Director Randall did express his apologies for not being able to attend this evening. He had a prior commitment with our local Truckee Rotary, which is another commendable organization to be a part of. He had a commitment before he understood that there was a second meeting or a January 15th meeting for the board here. So that's one of the topics later on this evening, is setting the calendar for the rest of the year so we can make sure we're all logged in there. But Steve extended his apologies and looks forward to sitting there next board meeting. With that, we have Chad Reed with our Water Department.
Good evening, President Bender and members of the board. First, we extend our welcomes to you, Director Morrell. We'd start off today with our typical water updates of the demands that we're seeing, where approximately the production that has been coming from the wells is about 10% if we take the full year below what we was last year. However, if we look at month to month, and sometimes we like to look at the month to month just to see, it tells the picture a little bit better, and we do base that off of a running 3-year average. So we try to compare the two and see, are we seeing any anomalies? Are we seeing anything weird? Are we seeing a lot of production or not very much production? And if so, obviously that's going to tie to the sales of the water also. When we look at the monthly average of November versus that of the running 3-year average, we're at 9%. We're anticipating we're going to end at about 8% below the demand of what it was the prior year. So the people are conserving, as I guess we would say, as well as we know that a lot of this ties to the weather. And we can see a lot of this tied directly to the ambient air temperatures. So this is a happy and sad time all at the same moment. We just want to let the board know that Earl Smith will be retiring this summer. He's had a great career with the district. He is a true asset to this district. He'll be missed by more than just water. Everyone here, is that a retirement was announced, was extremely happy in one sense, but very sad in the other, if we're all being honest and candid. And they all kept saying, what can we do? We want to do something. And he is loved by all. So it will be with a heavy heart that we see him go on, and we're wishing him all the best. One of the things I did want to also talk about was we had 3 different people that were able over this past year to receive several different certifications. And I think it's important to recognize the efforts that are made through these people. These 3 people are also going through our apprentice program. So we have an apprentice program on the water, or on the electric, and we have one over on the water. And so 2 of these people have made a lot of strides this year, and I really feel like I need to call out their name from the podium here for just a second. And that would be Kurt and Andrew. Both of them have received their D3 T2s, as well as they've been going through their modules, and they're getting very close to finishing up. And so we're very proud of them, and we'd like to recognize them, as well as Josh and his D2 and his T1. It's extremely important to have certified operators. Without those certified operators, the work doesn't go on. And so I'm very appreciative of the water staff that we have and what all they're able to do. Thank you.
Good evening, President Bender, members of the board. My name is Jared Carpenter. I'm the Electric Utility Director. So for our update, kind of per the usual as well, give a little idea of our power supply through November. December might have just arrived, but not before I posted this. So just get an idea of how our power supply mix looks for that particular month. You will see more from the undisclosed or undefined, or we don't really know where it comes from exactly. The market purchases, different names for it. Part of the reason is like one of the gas plants that we have some ownership in wasn't running much due to some maintenance. It was down for a decent chunk of time, so that reduced the gas from the gas plant and therefore increasing the undisclosed. We have, go back one slide. Yeah, thanks. So just a quick idea, just some of the projects. I'm sure a lot of you have seen these and people in the community have seen these. West River Street's kind of been completed by us. I do still see the poles still up there. You'll see they have mostly phone lines on them now and not power lines up top.
They're half the size.
Exactly. They got a haircut. So we're basically out of there, and it went really well. It's been a fun project for the summer. We've been doing a lot of the ELF fuses, the expulsion limiting fuses. So when you see these outages go out and people are out for 20, 30 minutes, they all get notifications and whatnot about this, but it's us swapping all these fuses out that are a much safer fuse to mostly to reduce wildfire threat, frankly. So we're making great progress on that as planned. So we took a big delivery of poles that came in, which is nice, because if any supply chain problems pop up, it's difficult when your inventory is low. So feeling much more confident with what we have there. And from the engineering side, amongst the regular work constantly, the Morris Valley Substation project is well underway in design. So more to come on that as you down the road a little bit, but certainly eating a lot of time, but another fun project. Next slide, please. So for some outages, back early December, there was a car into a pole. We actually had a few of them, but fortunately there weren't too many huge outages from those. This one, it kind of kept varying between 10 and 300 customers. It was up near Alder Creek, and so folks in Tawadonna, some of them would have been affected by that outage. So it was one of the early days of the year with icy roads, and as always, it happens. There was a transmission outage on 1227. Simply put, some of the transmission folks around us were seeing some overloading in the lines, and they need to do some switching. It was nothing, we weren't part of it. All our stuff is locked and loaded, but others around us, so they needed to do some switching around us. They actually just switched us back, so we had another outage that affected essentially all Tawadonna and Donald Lake customers. They do a thing called drop and pick, where basically they need to turn everything off to switch over to this one, but there's no way to do it without actually turning everyone off and doing a quick switch. So, a short version of that. As an FYI, these wildfires, when I first was writing this, a lot of stuff in LA hadn't happened yet. So, but those winds are really hammering southern Nevada as well, not so much up here. So there are a decent amount of outages down there that they've been switching power off, which has an effect on us up here, but nothing even worth talking about, really. So that's our updates from electric.
Good evening, President Bender, members of the board, Communications and Strategic Affairs. I agree with the heart goes out for the people who are impacted by the fires, and, LADWP's in the middle of it. They're a sister public water and electric utility. And so for all the public servants who are out there, working tirelessly to try to address this tragedy, and it's going to impact us, and it already has. And so we're getting customer inquiries. There's a lot of misinformation about everything right now. For the water utility, there's a lot of misinformation about LADWP and not the hydrants or not having enough water to fight the fire. Domestic water systems, simply put, are not designed to fight forest fires. And the fire flow systems that we designed to are for structure fires, not thousands of structure fires. And so, that's just a fact that we need to educate the public on how to do that. And the hydrants didn't fail, nor was the reservoir empty, or they didn't have water supply. The system didn't have the pumps and tanks and pipe sizes and pressures needed to provide the water flow that was needed. So that's just something we need to work on, educating the community. There's stuff out there about smart meters, houses with smart meters burning, but houses without them not. And again, no basis of fact. And so we just want to be aware that there's misinformation. We had to write some talking points to help customer service on the water system and hydrant calls. And we'll just continue to educate and be responsive and, try to tell people as clearly and truthfully as we can, what we are and what we are not. On the legislative and regulatory side, this is going to reverberate through Sacramento and beyond. There's already a new piece of legislation on the California Fair Plan, the insurance, and who knows where that's going to be at the end of this. And then water system, preemptive de-energization, PSPS, PSOM, very much in the center of the policymakers. So we're going to engage. We're going to try to provide the facts, be that trusted advisor, but we're going to have a lot of issues come up, and we just wanted to highlight that to the board. Next slide. Oh, actually,
I just wanted to add one kind of disclaimer or point of clarification in terms of the domestic water systems and kind of the wildfire, or sometimes we call it the wildland urban interface, the WUI, kind of where the the wildfire vegetation meets up against the, residential or urban development. And Stephen Ponsley is absolutely correct that our domestic water systems were not designed to a performance criteria for fighting wildland fires. And so the challenge is in that WUI that we talk about. I also want to make sure that, as Stephen pointed out, there's a lot of information out there in the media. We don't know the facts or the details yet. There's a lot of investigations and reports that will likely come out that we'll stay kind of up to speed on. Really, the most important part of it for us as a community is to understand lessons learned and kind of the debriefing process. As Director Laliotis pointed out, this is a huge tragedy. A lot of people have had their lives impacted, and we work diligently both on water and power to ensure our systems are providing the service and safety necessary, all the investment this board approves and helps develop. But it's important that we don't make early judgments on what happened with the water systems or the power systems out there. There's a lot of investigation still going on, but I think it's important in light of the calls we have received so far that our customers understand what our system was designed for and the expectations. We're also meeting with our fire protection districts to have those same discussions. We continue to do ISO rating reviews, fire suppression rating reviews, and to make sure that we're performing at the level that's expected, but also managing expectations so our fire protection districts know what to expect from us in an event like this. So we just conducted a tabletop exercise last summer. We're looking to create a larger one that's more water and power specific in the coming summers. And so we'll report back regularly on what we've learned from this event and how we're going to implement any changes we have. So I just wanted the board and the community to understand that. Thanks, Stephen.
No, thank you, General Manager. We do have a couple events coming up around legislative and regulatory efforts on policy and advocacy for, public power and water. NCPA is having their Strategic Issues Conference next week. That's in Sacramento. They both are, January 21st through 23rd. So great opportunity to learn about public power, to meet NCPA's members and key leaders in the state. And then they have a full-day conference with a lot of top-notch speakers. And so that is partially in preparation for every year public power and water in California. So that's 50 public power and hundreds of public waters descend on Sacramento together for a energy and water lobbying day, advocacy day, education day. It has a lot of hats. And that's Capitol Day with CMUA and NCPA, and that's Monday, February 3rd. And many of the issues and talking points and coalitions that are going to show up on February 3rd will be there at the Strategic Issues Conference working on the talking points and the messages and, what's the best strategies going forward. I'm going to switch over into the communications side. I'm going to thank Alex Spihalski, who works with me, who did a lot of this work. We did a kind of year-in review, recap, and gratitude campaign, and we highlighted a lot of important work that the district had done during the year. And there was a press release that led to an interview request from the Sierra Sun, and the general manager did a great job on that, and they wrote a piece up on it, and that ended up online and then in print on the inside cover of the Sun, so that was great. We also did KTKE interviews around that. We had a web page that we put together and a lot of other work and channels to kind of get that word out and educate the customers on their money at work and the key issues we're working on. Alex put together this great infographic, reached out to our departments and said, I want to talk about, what a great job we did, but I don't want to just use big words and fancy accolades. I want numbers and facts and things that we can point through. And everybody came out and really, some impressive statistics to back up what we do and why we do it. on the district's performance across the board in all departments. So I want to thank all my colleagues, the board, and everyone who helped make that happen. Next, please. We did a lot of social work, and we have the digital screens in the lobby working. So I don't know if you noticed them as you came in, and on the front door where we're posting our agendas and doing some engagement and communication. But water department projects, a lot of work. Underground and power lines was the project Jared was talking about on West River. Veg management, always a major activity for the district. And, you know, we're doing, Alex is doing a great job, and the crews and all the staff are helping get the photos, bring the stories, help us, you know, communicate in a way that's meaningful. Next. Those are the digital screens in the lobby that we're now using as, you know, another way to communicate with our customers. Next, please. And then in terms of media coverage, we had our press releases that we talked earlier. APPA, the American Public Power Association, they represent all 2,000 public powers across the state. So NCPA, CMUA, UAMPS are all members of APPA. They reached out and asked if the general manager would do a podcast around electric resource planning and battery storage. And they had been following our board recaps and press releases because they're on our distribution. And so they saw this story emerging, and general manager did a great job on the interview. You can click on it. It's on our website, but we got a lot of positive feedback for that. And then the district did receive the Special District Leadership Foundation District Transparency Certificate of Excellence, which is a California Special Districts Association and their leadership foundations accreditation, kind of a little like the accounting awards that are awarded. You know, they audit and they look. And this one does a lot with this process and how we talk about the Brown Act and open meetings and, you know, access for everyone and archiving. But it also goes into our website and best practices, and you really have, you know, it's an 80-item checklist that you need to say, yeah, we do that. Yeah, we do have bios of the board. Yeah, our district code is available. Yes, you can get to our budgets. Everything about, you know, good governance and transparency. And we did a lot of media and outreach around that as well. And that's it. Thank you.
Good evening, President Bender, members of the board, Jillian Stewart, Human Resources and Risk Director. I want to start with an update in staffing. We're excited to welcome Nina Kromenhoek for our contract administrator. She began January 6th and is already diving right in and getting to know everyone and the process. So we want to just welcome Nina to the team. Next up, we're not doing core value recognition this month. In December, we do our year-end recognition, and so we don't have any core value winners just yet for 2025. But I did want to give a shout out to the entire team. For the second year in a row, we have no lost time work comp injuries, and that's a very big feat for everyone, being the nature of the work that we do. So thank everyone for their efforts on that. And then also on top of that is we have a 15% reduction in incidents overall, safety and risk incidents for 2024 compared to 2023. So another thank you for that. And then lastly, just highlighting some of the events we did in December. We have pictures from our year-end awards dinner. It was a lot of fun where we recognize staff for years of service and other kind of fun recognition and accomplishments throughout the year. And then towards the holiday season, end of the year, we had a big bash for a holiday dessert contest, ugly sweater contest, workplace decorating contest. There's just some pictures of sharing that event as well. That's it. Thank you.
Wanted to add one last thing. Some of the work that Jillian has been partnering with our risk coordinator and our executive leadership team and our middle management team, and it's kind of going in phases throughout the organization. It's a little bit kind of tangential to the discussion earlier about Southern California and the challenges they have. We reported out to the board that we were taking on this process of an updated emergency operations plan and emergency response plan. We initiated some training a few months back on updating our team on emergency response architecture like NIMS and SIMS, these emergency response communication and kind of roles and responsibilities if we were to open up incident command, emergency operations centers, either alone as a standalone entity as electric and water utility, or in support with the town's EOC or the county's EOC or even a state EOC. And so you're seeing a lot of that kind of behind the scenes in Southern California. We just had this week a debrief on our last training experience. So part of the process is get education, absorb, kind of synthesize, come back and debrief collectively as a group, and then go to the next training phase. And so we're kind of implementing this across the organization with the goal at the end that we have the training and skill sets and resources to either open our own EOC or to participate in a local EOC here in our community. And so we'll continue to update the board. And at one point, the board will be a participant in that, because at the highest level, the board of directors is in that executive emergency management process. So we'll keep the board abreast of where we are in the process, but also looking forward to our consultants that are providing the training. One of them represents Burbank Fire as the fire chief down there, and so we know that they're heavily involved down there, and so some of the lessons learned will come back to this organization and our community, rest of the public agencies in our community. So it's something you're never looking forward to using, but we know it's not if, it's when, but we'll keep the board up to speed on that. And that's all we have. Happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Chad, Jared, Stephen, Jillian, and Brian, and congrats to Earl, Kurt, Andrew, and Josh. Way to go. And then welcome Nina, so to the district.
Yeah. No, I just want to quick shout out and say thank you. I know for all that, but getting back to the core of what this item is about, which is updating the board and the public about the inner workings of the organization for the last month. I think Brian and I kind of brainstormed this a couple years ago, and he brought it to fruition. And I just want to thank staff for doing this every month. I know it's a lot, but I think the value for me as a director and the public in general to see what we're doing as a team and how we're unified and what we do, the things we're doing, that staff are doing together, trying to get a glimpse into the work environment in this organization and the technical things that are going on out there. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for these updates. I think it's hugely valuable, and I find it to be something very important to the overall success of this district. So thank you.
Great. Courtney, you had something?
During my initial director comments in the beginning, Jillian, thank you for your help in the beginning. I'm sorry. There's so many new faces and names for me, so thank you for your help in the beginning and getting me settled. The communication part, Stephen, I love that infographic. That was so easily read and digestible, and I thought it was wonderful. So well done there for you and your team, as well as the other information. Brian, I asked you this question earlier, and I don't know if you want to answer it, or Jared, if you should answer it, but it's related to NV Energy and sort of these more frequent power outages that we're experiencing due to maintenance or whatever transmission line work that's being done. And my question is, with these planned maintenance schedules, should that lessen those power outages? Should we expect more? Should our customers expect more of those coming down the line? And so that was my question. Doesn't matter who answers.
Jared, could you give some insights? I had responded to Director Morrell about, and I wanted to present to the rest of the board the same question on kind of our expectations with NV Energy's future plans with the transmission corridor. There's a pretty large project they have planned there, and they've been doing some maintenance at their substations and switching stations. So give us some insight on how that's, what they're doing and what's the impact's going to be in the future for our customers.
Sure. So now we're going to enter the transmission world for a second here. So if you picture it, if you were to keep it localized for us, there's a large substation that's owned by NV Energy. It's down in Verdi, or Verdi, everyone calls it here, Verdi. Should be Verdi, right?
Verdi, yeah.
Good point, you're right, Verdi.
In New Hampshire, it's Verdi.
Exactly, that's how I feel too. So basically, if there's a corridor coming out of there if you're driving on the highway, you see a strip of kind of open land coming up over the hills there, heading kind of towards Stampede and the Boca reservoirs, and that's where the transmission lines that come into Truckee are. And they kind of take a hard left eventually and come feed kind of near downtown Truckee, where they come in and go through there and keep going on up to over to Lake Tahoe, Liberty's territory. They also keep going past up there up towards the Summit. So basically, imagine a big T. If this is Lake Tahoe and Summit, imagine this whole big T of lines. If anything were to happen down in the Cal sub, down there in Verdi, it would turn off Truckee unless we engage power to come over the Summit. There isn't really a way of saying power from the Tahoe area. There could be. We never thought of that, really. I don't think there really would be. But from the Summit, we can. So and these lines are pretty old. Like much transmission system in the nation, it's old. Not been touched in a very long time, 40, 50 years. So right now, NV Energy has plans to rebuild those lines. They call it the 131, the 133, and you get little names of them, but they're rebuilding those lines. They're going to be building the one from the Summit down, and then they're going to build the one from Verdi up. So I expect the first one will take about 2 years, next one will take 2 years after that. And I would expect when they replace those lines with new lines, reliability should get better. So that will help a lot. At least it should, in theory, it certainly should help a lot. And it's just a newer line, new poles, taller poles, more vegetation a little further away as needed, some just basic routine fixing of an old line. But also, that being said, in our capital projects, we also are working on things internally because there are 4 main substations in Truckee that we own and operate and 1 switching point over in Glenshire. So the Truckee Sub, Darnell Lake, Tahoe Donner, and Mars Valley, thank you. So Mars Valley is being rebuilt, and that's our biggest one. And so we're working on ways of actually tying in more systems so we could pick up some load and cover the Tahoe Donner and Darnell Lake areas in the future. Those are some of our major capital projects that are on our books. They have been for a while, where we really escalated them this year. But engineering away on them as fast as possible to get into construction. So we've already seen major strides in reliability. And I made a joke, I think, 2 board meetings ago, because I thought it was funny in the moment, but it gets less funny as the winter hits. I come here and talk about outages, and they're things that we have no control over. A phone call, we're going to turn you off in the next 20 minutes. Okay, we're just scrambling to handle that. We get a lot of those. I've only been here about a year and a half, but I get the feeling this wasn't happening a lot before. And I wouldn't really know exactly why they picked up so much. It's very possible NV Energy and Liberty have switched some things around and made some changes in their system. It's possible there's load growth and new customers. I really wouldn't know. That's their business. They're not going to share that in detail. But there are strides. We're working with them to make it better. We've made tremendous strides, frankly, in some of those things. We saw a huge reduction of the outages in Tahoe Donner, Darnell Lake areas after January of last winter, but now they're picking up again. So there's some internal, there's some external. It's a lot of things happening all at once.
Great, thank you.
To kind of just expand a little bit on that, staff does plan to meet with NV Energy as they get closer towards implementation or execution of their capital replacement plan of the transmission corridor. There's a lot of preparation and processes that have to go in place before that. Registration with the Federal Energy Commission. There's, engineering, planning. There's a lot of work there, and so the staff has a plan to meet with NV Energy to understand the overall impact of their project, what are the kind of redundancies that we put in place, and how we work with our community to make sure that there's the least impact as possible. As Jared said, these kind of drop and pick outages that we give notice on just in case they're going to impact people's days are a lot of times just for the purposes of switching circuits for maintenance reasons or operations reasons. So part of the enhanced outage notifications or communication is also giving some of the, moderating that detail when it's important or not to our community. So we'll continue to flesh that out.
Thank you. You guys?
And just really quick, thank you again. Oh, same thing everybody just said. I really appreciate the director updates, your updates, staff updates. I find them extremely helpful. I find them extremely informative, and I appreciate you all putting the effort in to share with us. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, everyone. That takes us to special business, agenda item number 8, and got the 2025 board calendar.
So, President Bender, we don't have a presentation this evening because this is in large part a discussion and determination by the Board of Directors on the most, preferred calendar for the 2025 fiscal year or calendar year. As we discussed back in December, we typically and historically have established the board calendar in December prior to the subsequent year because of the timing of the elections and the ability to seat the new board members. We made a decision to cancel what would have been the first Wednesday of January 2015. That was January 1st. I think everyone was celebrating. So our third Wednesday is this evening. District code does provide that our regularly scheduled meetings be scheduled on the first and third Wednesdays of each month at 6 p.m. here at the district office. The board still has the authority and provision for scheduling special meetings, canceling meetings, emergency meetings, and we'll go into more training later on for all the board and the new board on what kind of the circumstances and kind of requirements for each of those special and emergency meetings. But this evening, the plan is to set the regularly scheduled board meeting calendar for 2025. Historically, going back several years, the board would stick to or keep consistent with district code in terms of the first and third Wednesdays. Several years back, I think it's 5 or 6 years back, maybe it's been longer now, the district kind of ran a pilot program and experimented with executing or presenting for consideration to our board our annual procurements for the following year. And these procurements were kind of general in nature, routine, things that we do every year as part of our normal business, typical material purchases, consulting services, et cetera, et cetera. We would package those in one review packet in November or December for the board's review and consideration and approval for the next year. That created a lot of efficiencies in terms of not having to have individual board presentations and staff reports throughout the months of spring, trying to prepare for construction and procurements for the summer. And so with that efficiency and streamlined effort, the board has for many years now reverted to a 1 month or one meeting a month, the first Wednesday of the month, and essentially formally canceling the second Wednesday of the month at the beginning of the year. We have, for board's consideration this evening, staff input, a recommendation is that we could really effectively manage that one meeting a month for the first part, maybe the first quarter of 2025. But we have a lot of administrative and governance items coming up here in 2025. And I wanted to bring it to the board's attention just for your consideration. We have a cost of service analysis or study for the water utility that will be conducted here late spring, early summer. We have a Prop 218 water rate process that we must go through to set water rates for 2026 and beyond. That's a several month process includes provisions for public hearings, public comment, reviews, and so there's a lot of timelines and notification provisions that require a lot of staff and board time for that decision-making process, a lot of workshops. We also plan to present to the board the fiscal year 26 and 27 budgets for both water, power, administrative services, et cetera. So that's a multi-workshop, multi-several-month process to make sure the board has all of the information they can have access to for consideration and making a decision for budgets, water rates. We're also planning on a water capital improvement plan update. We're also planning on electric distribution system master plan update. So there's a lot of larger projects that staff would recommend that later in the year we revert back to the 2 meetings a month, the first and third Wednesdays. The option would be to keep it at 1 meeting a month with the caveat that some of those meetings are likely to go long into the evening, just simply because of the public comment periods and a lot of information to present for consideration. So I have put in place on this staff report, apologize, it's a little bit awkward to present on the screen, but it is to maintain the first Wednesday of the month until May, and then once June comes, we will enter that process of the cost of service study review, water rate, budget, and capital improvement plan updates. So in June, and then back to July, we have historically either canceled or kept the first meeting in July light because of the holiday and maybe attendance. This year, it doesn't look like it will be a problem. So staff is recommending that starting in June, we go to 2 meetings a month for the remainder of the 2025 year. I do have one additional item to comment to make. Director Randall asked that I offer his opinion on this, and for board's consideration, he's not here to vote or formally vote on the action or motion, but he did want to say that he is in support of the 1 meeting a month for as long as we can. I'll keep it at that. On that, I'll pass it back over to the board. The recommendation for this action or this special business, there's no fiscal impact, obviously. Staff is looking for guidance from the board to set the calendar for 2025.
Got it. Thank you. Any public comment on the board calendar for 2025? All right, seeing none, we'll go into director discussion. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Cory.
I do have a question with the 2 meetings a month. So all the topics that you talked about are big, and they're at a finite time for that time, like a budget. It needs to be passed by a certain time, and I remember it starts in summer. Is that right?
Historically, we've started our budget process, kind of formally opened the budget workshop calendar in late August and carried that through to final approval and adoption the first meeting in December or the last meeting in November.
Okay, so let's just use that for an example. So that's a big topic, and because that's a 2-year budget. So my question is, are 3 additional meetings enough? So I guess my question is, just with the 2 meetings a month for some of these big topics, should the board expect that there will be additional meetings needed? Because, and so you have to tell me on that, I'm not sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Historically, the 2 meetings a month during the budget season have been sufficient. We've kind of gauged the level of material for review and kind of early discussions between the board to understand how much more information or additional review might be needed. The 2 meetings a month have been sufficient. There's always the opportunity for a board to call a special meeting. And with a special meeting, I can defer to Council Gross on some of the details on that. But the special meetings are usually specific in nature of a certain item or a topic of discussion. They have to be noticed to the public in time. And, up to the board's pleasure or discretion if we need more public process to arrive at a determination or adoption, we can absolutely do more meetings if we need to. I would like to, my recommendation is to at this early point in this stage in the year, to adopt a calendar consistent with district code. And then as we get closer to that budget season or the Prop 218 process, schedule special meetings based on board availability at that time.
I'm not necessarily advocating for more meetings, but I just wanted to understand more if it was sufficient, if it was enough for that sort of heavy load coming, that's all.
Yeah, I appreciate the question and consideration. I think we'll put a heavy lift. Mr. Salmon, is he? I don't know. He's back there to make sure his presentations are concise, detailed, and effective.
Always is.
Always. Yeah. You all good with the calendar as presented?
Yeah, I like the two, well, some of our meetings last year were very, very long, and I am not at my best after 10 PM. My ability to to be rational declines. So I would rather have 2 meetings a month and just sort of suck it up.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Yeah, that's
And
what
be
we've,
present.
yeah, it's what we've done with the budget cycle to incorporate that. Now you mentioned a few other very large lifts, so,
Yeah.
And then if we need to add more, we can.
We can.
And,
And if we need to cancel, that's easy as well. We can-
exactly.
It's easier to cancel than it is to plan, so I'd rather start heavy and cancel them if we figure we're on top of things. We do have 2 meetings in May, just noting that. which
I
is
apologize.
fine.
It started in May and not June.
Perfect. And just for everybody's information, I will be gone for the March meeting. I don't think it'll affect y'all at all, but just forewarned.
Yeah, and my gut is based on my time on the board, we should get all the district business done with this schedule. And as Director Finn said, we can't, staff can always come to us at a meeting and go, based on this and that, things are looking really light for next month. There's an option to cancel, this meeting and move it to that next month. So while sometimes it messes up, it's not preferable to do that, it can be done. And we have done it in the past. I flip-flop on the long meetings versus 2, but I agree, there's been some really long meetings this past year, and they are definitely a grind.
painful.
Yes.
We're just not at our
I
best.
find the
We're
next
just not
day,
fresh.
like,
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Yeah, so I'm in support of this schedule, understanding that there's flexibility in this, and I would leave it to staff to appropriately balance the workload and the schedule, and come to the board with changes as needed.
All right.
is there a motion?
I'll move that we adopt the 2025 board meeting calendar as presented.
Second that.
Excellent. Roll call, please.
Director Morel,
Yes.
Director Laliotis.
Yes.
Vice President Finn,
Yes.
President Bender.
Yes,
The record will note Director Randall is absent.
got it. All right, moving on.
Happens when you're not here.
I know. Poor Steve. Lessons learned.
Hey, speaking of that,
Speaking of that,
board election of officers. And then don't forget, we have a finance corp meeting too for election of officers as well, just with that one item.
So,
right.
item
9.
number 9 here is just, again, not a presentation, but for board's consideration. This is very similar. Typically, historically, the board has elected its officers in the final meeting of December, but due to the alignment of the election results and the board schedule, that was rescheduled for this first meeting in January. Historically, the board has in district code a general provision or a guideline to rotate through its board membership, the offices of vice president and president, but this does not prohibit, or it leaves to the board's discretion if there is a desire or need to have board members repeat offices year after year. So it's up to the board's discretion. There's some general guidelines in district code to rotate through the board dais in terms of its officers, but we need to set those officers this evening through board appointment.
Excellent. Any public comment on board officers? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to director deliberation.
I'm happy to support any director to my right as vice president or president of the board.
Those seats working out well for you.
Heck yeah.
I'll cut to the chase, since you started that. I'd be happy to make a nomination of Krista Finn for president, and I will nominate myself.
Oh,
as
yeah.
vice
Nice.
president.
I'll second that.
Awesome.
Heck,
Happy to accept.
Oh,
And I would
awesome.
love to
All
have
right,
Tony
yeah.
as my vice president.
Okay, I'm all for that.
But before that, I want to thank Jeff for, what was this, how many years in a row? 3? Or 2 years in a row as president?
Krista did a double header, and then I did a double header.
So I appreciate
Here we
you
are.
guys
Yeah, no worries.
for the last 4 years stepping up, so thank you.
Great, thank you. I think we have a motion and a second, and roll call, please.
Director Morel,
Yes.
Director Laliotis.
Yes.
Vice President Finn,
Yes.
President Bender.
For the last vote, yes.
Record will note
Baton's
Director
been
Randall's
handed.
absent.
Hey, oh, look at
Give me
that.
that gavel.
Happy to pass that over.
Get lucky, gavel banging. Right on.
Welcome.
Thank you. Great. Well, that was pretty seamless and painless. And as long as we are on the topic, I think we should put our regular meeting on hold for a moment and open up our Finance Corp Board meeting and do the same, check off the same chore. So I officially am going to call to order, boom, the Finance Corporation Board meeting. It is, what, 6:56 on Wednesday, January 15th. Can we get a call to order, please?
Director Morel,
Here.
Director Laliotis,
Here?
Vice President Bender.
Vice President Bender.
No.
No.
No? President
Yes.
Bender, oh, I thought we were done. Oh, okay.
Finance.
Oh, if the, you are.
I mean, President Bender,
Oh, it's okay.
President Finn.
Here, we're here.
In some shape or form.
Well, you now you have to run this part, you have to run this meeting, man.
Whoa. Brian, any changes to the Finance Corp meeting?
There are no changes this evening.
Okay, any public comment on any matter not on the agenda for the Finance Corp tonight? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to action item 5, electing a president VP. Same staff
Same.
presentation. Any public comment on Finance Corp President VP officer elections? Seeing none, we'll close that and then bring it on to director deliberation for Finance Corp.
Same,
All right,
same.
Same. All right. I'll make a motion to, for Krista Finn, President, Tony Laliotis, VP.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Director Morel,
Yes.
Director Laliotis.
Yes.
Vice President Finn,
Yes.
President Bender.
Yes.
The record will note Director Randall's absent.
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay, now it's officially yours.
Meeting
again.
is
Yeah.
adjourned. That meeting is adjourned. The Finance Corp meeting is adjourned. Back to our regularly scheduled meeting. Yay, thank you, everybody. We are on item number 10, which is consideration of approving a district representative and alternate to serve on the Association of California Water Agency Joint Powers Insurance Authority Board. Take it away, Brian.
So on this item, again, we don't have a presentation. This is for discussion, special business. The district has been for several years now a member of the Aqua JPIA. It's a pooled insurance program, liability insurance, general liability and fire insurance and other insurance coverages pooled through Aqua, the Association of California Water Agencies. So it's a pooled insurance program with all of the water agencies in California. The district several years ago had to evaluate and reconsider its insurance coverages and policies because of the same thing that everyone's experiencing in our area, the increasing in premiums. And so the opportunity to join ACO is multifaceted. There was an insurance opportunity, which we've experienced significant savings over the last several years, but also other membership benefits, training, education, political advocacy, legislative and regulatory advocacy, joint partnerships, and kind of pooled information and communication and collaboration. So many of our water agencies in the local area are members, and then obviously throughout the state of California, it's reaped a lot of benefits. Part of the governance structure for the JPIA insurance, the Joint Powers Insurance Authority, under Aqua, is that we're required to maintain representation on their board. And that request from the JPIA is that one of those representatives be an elected member of our board, and then an alternate be selected from leadership staff. That's their typical format. But one of the representatives needs to be an elected official for our organization. And so with the last election, our former representative on that board was Director Harris. Since this election, Director Harris did not rerun, and we have a couple of new board members, and we need the opportunity to select an elected representative for that board. So I'll hand it back over to the board. I can answer questions on kind of the commitments and responsibilities. They are typically, Aqua JPA has 2 conferences a year, really the end of the year conferences where they make decisions on their strategic plans and execution of their governances and approval of their budgets and plans for the following year, and election of their executive officers. And so that's at a minimum is a commitment, one conference at the end of the year, but there are generally 2 major conferences a year for the JPIA, and then there's communication throughout the year that will be distributed to our representation for consideration. The other part of it is to bring back that information to our board for guidance and direction collectively as the governing board of our agency. So it's a great opportunity for any board member who wants to really immerse themselves in Aqua JPAA, one of our partnerships out there, understand the insurance liabilities, our coverage, and some of the challenges that all of the public water systems across California are facing. In light of the discussion earlier with Southern California and what's being experienced down there, I'm sure there's going to be a lot to discuss this year at the Aqua JPIA. So with that, I'll leave it to the board to select a representative of our organization.
Thank you, Brian. Do we have any public comments on this consideration? Seeing none, we'll open it up to board deliberations. Does anybody have a?
I had a question for Brian. Do they have remote capabilities for those meetings? Or are they required to be in person, and if you're not in person, then your vote's not counted, more or less?
That's a great question. I haven't seen remote meeting participation. I've seen I forget the terminology, but kind of an absentee ballot for the election process for their executive board. But in terms of remote meetings, I have not seen that. It'll be too late once you, sorry, I apologize for that.
I've looked at a few of their meeting minutes last week or this week, and just trying to get an idea of how they handle their meetings. But it's very hard because there's, 400 members.
Yeah.
So.
So we do have a staff alternate if a board elected official could not attend something. Staff is recommending we keep in place Jillian Stewart, our Human Resources and Risk Director, to be that alternate. Staff can attend in the board's absence.
Do the meetings move around the state?
They do. They tend to be alternating between regions. The last couple of years, they've had them in the Palm Desert, Palm Springs area.
Better place to talk about water doesn't exist.
Those are typically in the late fall, winter, and that's not a bad area to be in terms of weather.
Yeah, in general, it's up usually up north in Sacramento or.
Correct.
So they generally do a north-south split. In the fall is south and north, and in the north is usually in the spring. And it's a valuable conference outside of Aqua JPIA. Aqua itself is, because it's tied to the Aqua conference.
Yeah, typically it's scheduled on the same week as the general conference. So they'll do the JPIA, the insurance board commission meeting, the day before the general conference. And so there's a great opportunity, as Director Laliotis, or Vice President Laliotis has said.
So I'm happy if, unless there's anyone who wants to, which I absolutely encourage anyone to do it, but I'm happy to do it. I do have the most familiarity with them over the years, because that was our insurance provider in Taos City, so I'm happy to be that representative, so.
Nice.
But I'm only if no one else wants to do it.
All right.
I just have a question. So aside from the conference, is it a monthly meeting commitment? I'm unclear of what the involvement is.
So the JPIA is kind of structured into a board of directors and then an executive board. So that executive board meets regularly, and that is a smaller subset of the larger elected representatives across the JPIA. So what we're appointing this evening is the general board representatives. It's typically 2 major meetings a year, with one having really the elections and approvals for budget and things of that nature. The rest of the year, it's a lot of communication, information, distribution on updates from the executive director of the JPIA. There is also a lot of opportunities through Aqua to participate in training and development as well. So,
All right. Does this require a motion? Do we have to make a motion to, okay.
It's probably a good idea.
So we're,
I'll move to nominate Tony VP Laliotis to the what is it? ACW Aqua JPIA Board.
I'll second that.
Do we want to include the staff member? Do we need to include that as part of the motion?
Council Gross?
It certainly wouldn't hurt.
Okay.
we'll cover all of our
All
bases.
right, and the
once we
motion
do that.
includes re-electing Jillian Stewart as the staff alternate. If you're good with that. Yeah, okay.
Oh, good.
And I'll second that amended motion.
Okay, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Director Morrell,
Yes.
Director Bender,
Yes.
Vice President Laliotis.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
Record will note, Director Randall is absent.
Way to go.
Very good. Thank you very much, Tony. Appreciate it.
Go to Palm Springs.
I look forward, yeah, he's going to Palm Springs. I look forward to your report out.
The grass was.
How good the golf is. Item number 11 this evening is consideration of approving a district representative for the Climate Transformation Alliance.
Very similar as the last couple of special business items. Apologize for not having a more formal presentation, but I can give a little bit of background here. The Climate Transformation Alliance is a local JPA nonprofit organization that was founded by our own President Finn, Anna Klofstead, with the town of Truckee, Town Council Anna Klofstead, and formerly part of the project was one of the board of directors with the Truckee Tahoe Airport, David Diamond, board member David Diamond. That organization has set forth a mission statement and goal of working in collaboration, not just with the founding members, but also other member agencies who've committed to the charter, and all of our businesses, residents, and partners throughout the North Tahoe Truckee Basin. And so the general footprint has been kind of the footprint service territory of the airport and the school districts. The mission statement has been to achieve carbon neutrality by 2045, and kind of the catalyst or nexus between CTA and that goal is collaboration, support, education, funding. There's a lot of opportunities through collaboration that we individually could not accomplish. President Finn and her governing board have done a tremendous job of building this nonprofit. We continue to build membership and participation. Staff from each of the founding agencies also participates and has put in place a lot of programs in alignment and support with that goal. This evening, our recommendation is for the board to, since there's a new set of new board members, President Finn and I thought it was important to bring it back to the board for consideration, the board nominating representation, elected representation from this board to the governing board of the CTA. That President Finn has been the district's representation since its inception, and I will leave that discussion and deliberation to the board now.
And I'll just add a little color to that. So for one thing, I'm happy to serve, but we're also, we need a second board member to, A, if I'm unavailable, or B, to attend the big CTA meetings. Our preference, the governing partners, was to always to have two board members from the other districts, just helping to share knowledge and to forward the mission. And if somebody is unavailable to make it, like I have indeed missed quarterly CTA meetings. So the larger group, the CTA meets 4 times a year on like the second Friday of quarterly. So the next one will be April. In the meantime, the governing partners, which are the PUD, the Airport District, and the town of Truckee, we meet via Zoom once a month on Fridays at 11. So that's the governing partners meeting. And at those meetings, we discuss programming for the larger meetings. We just formed subcommittees to help us with education, with marketing, with recruitment, and with programming. So we're trying to do a lot because the mission is urgent. And I'm happy to say that the CTA is, we are growing, and we've had some early successes landing joint grants. The Nevada County landed quite a bit of money with the help of the CTA because all of the partners are, you're much more likely to get a grant when they see community collaboration. So the hospital recently signed the charter. So we're making, there's a lot of people in that room right now. And it's exciting to see, and I would really like another board member to sort of hop in with us and help forward it so that when I'm not there for whatever reason, you can help reduce our greenhouse gas emissions as well. Anybody can do it. So anyhow, that's the ask. That's the ask.
There it is.
So yeah, and like I said, I am happy to continue, being the point person, the main person, but I would really like an alternate. I would really like an alternate.
The alternate, although the alternate does not have to alternate.
No.
They can be present.
They can be present, yeah, we can be there at the same time. It's just two of us, right? We know we are all cognizant of the Brown Act. We are not going to get into a sticky situation, council. So yes. And then we report back to what we're accomplishing and what irons we have in the fire. Not the fire, not, no fire, no combustion. Sorry, I have to rework my metaphors.
Well, I'm going to bow out of that.
You just stepped up to the Aqua JPIA.
Put myself out there already tonight. So I would come down to Jeff and Courtney.
And I will say that the schedule for this meeting on Fridays, I have to pass on that. I have other commitments on Fridays. When you said Friday, I'm like, nope, I can't do that.
I'm going to nominate Steve Randall. Jeff
All
needs
right,
to.
all right.
I've gotten the emails, I'm on the list. I haven't attended one, and I'm just kind of drowning. So
Yeah.
I need to buckle down.
Yeah, I was
with
hoping to
work
get a
and stuff.
Laliotis, but he already stepped
Yeah,
up to
yeah,
another
he
volunteer
stepped-
moment. I get it.
So,
All right, well, we'll see what Steve can squeeze into his schedule, and we can nominate him.
yeah.
Can we nominate him? He's not here.
You can. He could respectfully decline at another time, but you can ask,
Okay.
and you can appoint.
So,
We
I
can-
mean,
This will
honestly,
teach
it
him
is-
to miss a meeting, huh? I don't want to make that
Might the
motion.
board consider renominating Krista to continue?
Oh, absolutely.
President Finn to
Yeah,
continue
that's-
represent, and staff could re-agendize this item for a later date to
Okay.
consider an alternate.
I will make a motion to nominate President Finn to the CTA yet again.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Krista, really,
welcome.
for spearheading that.
You're welcome.
That's huge.
I'll second that.
All right, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Director Morrell?
Yes.
Director Bender?
Yes.
Vice President Laliotis? President Finn?
Yes.
The record will note Director Randall's absent.
Okay,
Sorry, Krista.
that's okay. I will reach out to Director Randall and pressure him. Okay, on to the consent calendar this evening, which is fairly long. Do we have any public comments on the consent calendar? Seeing none. Do we have any director comments or questions on consent?
I do. I would like to remove or pull off the consent calendar item number 17. In full disclosure and transparency, I am a member of the Board of Directors for Tahoe Donner Association, and this consent item has to do with Tahoe Donner and money, so I would like to have that removed and voted separately.
Is that, can we simply have you recuse yourself from that, from voting on that?
Or is it pulled off entirely and then you vote on the whole consent
Yeah,
with
how-
that a separate?
So on an item where a director has a conflict or perceived conflict on the consent calendar, it's sufficient to announce and identify the conflict, recuse yourself, remain on the dais, participate in the vote, making it clear that you're voting on all items except the item that you're recusing yourself on, and then the minutes would reflect the fact that you had recused yourself, in this case on item number 17. So it is, in short, it is not necessary to separate and pull that item from the consent calendar. You can recuse yourself under the FPPC guidelines as I've just outlined.
So when I vote, then, am I voting on the consent calendar in its entirety?
No, you'd be recusing
Without.
yourself on the, on this, in this case, on item number 17.
Okay. Then I'll do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Morrell, for clarifying that, identifying that conflict. Any other director comments or questions about consent?
Looking good. I'd like new microphones, please.
Right on. I'm all in.
Why would you want to do that?
Oh, wait, is that the right switch? No. So I think it'll be nice. It'll be nice.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move the consent calendar tonight.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Yes.
So,
Council Rose.
May I suggest, because the previous question and answer was just a discussion, I would suggest that Director Burrell disclose her conflict with respect to item number 17, her intent to recuse, and then you can go ahead and call for the vote.
Okay, so with the consent calendar, I would like to recuse myself from item number 17 in relation to Tahoe Donner Association. In full transparency, I am a director on the Board of Directors at Tahoe Donner Association, and so I'd like to recuse myself from that item.
Thank you. Okay, now we can have a roll call vote.
Director Morrell,
Yes.
Director Bender,
Yes.
Vice President Laliotis.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
The record will note Director Randall is absent.
Right.
And if I may add, the record will reflect Director Morrell's recusal on item number 17.
Very good.
Okay?
Thank you, everybody. Very clear. And that brings us, I believe, to our action items. Item number 20 is the first of them. It is consideration to schedule a public hearing for February 5th, 2025, for the intent to update the Martis Valley Groundwater Management Plan. And we have our expert on that, Stephen Poncelet, is going to talk to us.
Both switches on the microphone there. Excellent.
We're just getting the hang of them, 20 years in.
Good evening, President Finn and members of the board. This is action item 20. Let me, all right, the district has a long history of stewardship, management, and scientific work in the Martis Valley groundwater basin. It is our primary source of water for Truckee and the Martis Valley. We collaboratively developed the Martis Valley Groundwater Management Plan, GMP, in 2013. That was in collaboration with North Star Community Services District and Placer County Water Agency. Gonna go into some of the history on the plan. Some of the board members have seen this often, but as it's a new topic and a new board, we're gonna dive in it quickly, so please let me know if you have any questions. There was a significant amount of science and groundwater and water supply and climate work done on this basin in the early 2010s, and it was driven by the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation's Truckee River Basin Study. And we were able to take $250,000 from PCWA, North Star, and us, and we were the major funder of that based on who draws what from the aquifer. And leverage that funding into $1 million of science and collaboration in the basin. And so there is a lot of understanding, monitoring, and measurement of how this basin operates and functions. What's a GMP? It's a multi-agency framework to ensure long-term quality and availability of water supply. Reflects current water resource planning, and it's in alignment with state and other groundwater policies. It has a series of basin management objectives that really inform the plan, and then under each of those basin management objectives are nestled actions and timelines on when those actions will be taken. The three agencies went through a big public process to adopt this groundwater management plan, and right as we were about to implement, the state of California passed sweeping groundwater legislation called the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, SGMA. It replaced GMPs for medium and high priority basins, and Martis Valley was a medium priority basin at that time. So it did halt implementation of our GMP, and it created a new collaborative effort, which was the three water agencies from before, but now the three entitlement agencies, Nevada County, Placer County, and Town of Truckee, who were active in the Martis Valley groundwater basin. We got together and decided that our basin's pretty healthy and sustainable, and we didn't really feel it was appropriate that we be in this very complex and expensive regulation. So we submitted an alternative submittal. We hired a expert consultant to certify that our basin had been operated within its stable, sustainable yield for a period of 10 years. Our submittal actually showed 25 years. DWR, Department of Water Resources, had 2 years to review that, and they took longer than that. And in that process, through regulation, every 5 years, they have to review the prioritization status of the basins. And again, we were medium priority. And we really took a very close look at how they did that, and were able to convince the regulators that we weren't a high priority or medium priority basin, and we ended up being reprioritized to very low. With that, we no longer had the obligation and the heavy hand and the very expensive regulation of SGMA, and the groundwater management agencies, North Star, CSD, PCWA, and us, thought that our original GMP, that it was important to have stewardship and management in a structured plan, and that the original GMP was a good framework. So we agreed to rekindle that effort, and so the clock kind of reset to 2019. So we documented significant changes in the last 5 years, and a lot of it was the ton of science that had been done previously, along with all the science and monitoring and reporting we did during the SGMA alternative submittal and annual reports. And we continue to do annual reports every year. One thing I want to talk about monitoring is historically we monitored for 22 years only in spring and fall, and that was the state's requirement. Since 2017, and the state requirement was still only monitoring twice a year, we went to a monthly monitoring schedule voluntarily, and we've been doing that ever since, and that's really helped build our database. In hydrogeologic cycles, you need decades to build patterns, but we're starting to build them, and it's really helping us understand seasonal impacts and droughts. And again, we had some really dry years in there, and then we've had some wetter years recently. What's happened every time we've looked and monitored is the basin's sustainable. We're well below sustainable yield, and it always rebounds very quickly with precipitation. So, that's a good thing, and we're very fortunate to have such a resource. So the next steps were to continue the annual monitoring and reporting. There is a stakeholder working group that we put our expert geologist in front of every year and let them see the results and ask their questions. Give us feedback and, work collaboratively. And then our BMOs did talk about a comprehensive update of the GMP every 5 years. And that's what we're here to talk about tonight. So the GMP talk has these 6 BMOs. BMO 1 is the one that lays out all the objectives and actions and timeframes, and that's what keyed the 5-year update. And we always like to highlight BMO number 5, pursue and use the best available science and technology to inform the decision-making process, because groundwater is complex, but it's science, and you can measure and monitor and manage based on that very concrete information. So section 3.1.1 of BMO 1 says that you'll update it every 5 years, and that update would include a summary of monitoring results, summary of management actions, discussion of whether the actions are achieving the progress of the BMOs, summary of proposed management actions for the future, summary of GMP changes that occurred during the period covered by the report, summary of actions taken to coordinate with other water and land agencies and other government agencies, and then recommendations and ultimately an updated GMP. In 2024, the district, in partnership with North Star CSD and PCWA, issued a request for a proposal for the Martis Valley GMP 5-year update. We reached out to interested parties, consultants in that process, and as before, the district has been the lead agency in contracting, but we share costs equally with North Star CSD and PCWA. Scope of work also included the Water Year 23 annual report that we've been doing every year. That also informs the GMP update. And we did include, we've been doing a stakeholder meeting every year where we bring our consultant in, present the results, and have a discussion. For the GMP update, we're going to do that again, but we're also going to do a public meeting. So anyone can come and engage in groundwater resources and planning. Board awarded a contract to GEI Consultants at the April 3rd board meeting, amount not to exceed a little over $104,000 with a 10% change order authorization. The GMP partners have been working with GEI on execution of the Water Year Annual Report for 23. We started with that because that helps inform the GMP update as well, because you're looking at status and condition in there. In kicking off the 5-year major update a couple months ago, GEI dove into the requirements for public process and notice in updating a GMP. And the short story is, while we are doing this voluntarily, it says if you're going to update a GMP, Department of Water Resources says thou shall have 2 public hearings, 2 notices, 6 publications in the Sierra Sun, and a whole series of steps. And in the interest of good governance and public process and open and transparent operations, we decided we'll do all that and make sure that as we update this GMP, we're following the regulatory process to a T. So this action item is to set a public hearing for the intent to update the Martis Valley GMP. This is a little bit of an eyesore. It was in your board packet, but, you know, government code, it's written in there somewhere, 6066, and DWR prescribes this schedule. Tonight's the notice of setting the public hearing of a notice of intent to update. We are required to post twice in the Sierra Sun, the local paper for that, so that's January 17th and 24th. We're requesting consideration of scheduling the meeting on February 5th, the next regularly scheduled board meeting. We would hold a public hearing, and the board would consider adopting a resolution of a notice of intent to update our GMP. We then would publish that resolution as required by regulation on the 17th and 25th in the Sierra Sun. March and April is when we complete the update. We hold the stakeholder meeting, we hold the public meeting, and late April, we finalize the annual report and the 5-year update. Wednesday, May 7th, the schedule would be to come back to the board with a very similar presentation and action as right now, requesting to set a public hearing for the intent to adopt an updated GMP. We would then post in the Sierra Sun twice as required, 16th and 23rd. And then on Wednesday, June 3rd, we would hold a public hearing on the intent to update, to adopt an updated GMP, along with a protest process, not dissimilar to Prop 218, where if 50% plus one of our ratepayers protest, then we couldn't adopt our updated GMP. So it's a prescriptive process. We anticipate a robust engagement with our community, but these are the steps that you need to document that, you followed the rules, and we're going to go ahead and do that. And then all the resolutions in the adopted GMP would be provided Department of Water Resources. So the existing GEI consulting contract is for an amount not to exceed $114,531, which will be split equally amongst the GMP partners. And this item was included in the fiscal year 24 board-approved budget under 2 GLs, one in the Water Department for the annual reports that's in there every year, and then the major 5-year update coming out of the board local watershed stewardship initiative. the GLs are listed there in the split. These items are also budgeted for 2025, and sufficient funds exist to complete this contract in the schedule that was put together. And again, we pay a third of, our budgets are ours, but of the total numbers, we pay a third. And the recommendation is to set a public hearing for the district's regularly scheduled board meeting on February 5th, 2025 at 6 p.m. or soon thereafter for the intent to update the Martis Valley Groundwater Management Plan. And I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you very much, Stephen. My microphone wasn't on. Thank you very much for that presentation in depth. Do we have any public comment on our intent to update our groundwater management plan? Seeing none, let's turn to the board for some deliberation. Do we have any questions for Stephen? Yeah, are there enough acronyms in that for all of us?
No, not enough.
We need more
I barely keep up with that.
That would be great.
Actually, I do have a question. So this is a 6-month process. This is a long public process. Can you give me an example or two of other programs or plans coming down the line that would also involve this type of process? I don't know if water rates or anything like that. Is it-
The Prop 218 process, they're different because they're under different regulations and statutes, but it has public meetings, it has notice of public meetings, it has protest processes and everything. So that's a very good example. Ordinances and adjusting, rates. And budgets will go through a public hearing process, and general manager could add a dozen others, but this is a fairly
Go through
prescriptive.
those two that you just described this year. So,
Yeah, I know. I was kind of adding it all
yeah,
up.
so-
I was like, okay, that was quite an impressive, 6 months, so it's quite detailed. It was good.
I have a question about that as well. If a member of the public wanted an opportunity to share concerns, questions, feedback on the plan as it's being created, when should we tell them to be here?
Well, we're telling them to come to the public hearing, and I
February
think.
5th, next meeting.
Yeah, I believe, next meeting. I believe that the intent of the notice of intent
That's-
to update GMP is to put people on notice that we're having these discussions. And if you are a stakeholder or if you have opinions, now's your opportunity to engage. So formally, there's 2 public hearings at which they have the opportunity to come and directly address the district and the board. And then they're always welcome to reach out to me or to our partners and engage us with their questions throughout this process. Our stakeholder working group's about 15 deep, and it's major pumpers, which is the major water agencies, but also the golf courses and the private pumpers, and they sit with us and they share their information, so we're grateful for that. It's your agencies, towns, counties, Department of Fish and Wildlife, Department of Water Resources, our federal partners with TROA, and then it's the environmental groups. And so there's representation formally, and then, through the GMP update and the public meeting then becomes, and the stakeholder working group meetings for stakeholders, but the public's for everyone.
Okay, so next meeting, February 5th, we will, if members of the public come in to ask about what is the process for updating this, where are we getting the data, all that sort of stuff, we will be fielding those questions. We can field those sorts of questions. Okay, just because it is, that timeline was complex, and it's the public meeting to announce that we are going to be resolved to update the plan, which is not actually showing anybody the plan or how we're updating it. It's just, it's interesting, and I understand it's very prescribed. We didn't make it up.
The public hearing to adopt the plan will include the updated plan, and the stakeholder meeting and the public meetings will have, the plan will be out for review, presented at meetings, and, with our independent expert consultants available to answer questions.
Perfect. That's what, I just want to make sure that, as we are printing these notices in the Sierra Sun, that people understand what this opportunity is for them. So I hate it on the back end when they come and say, I didn't know anything about this. And you're like, you did. Or, how we get the information out there is also important, I think.
Yeah, real quick, wanted to kind of echo the sentiments of the discussion. Great question. I wanted to just kind of lay a little bit of framework so that the public understands this process a little bit. And this is new for us because it's the state's process for the updated GMP. We weren't required to have one, but in an effort of due diligence and making sure our best practices are in place, we, as an agency with our partnerships, made a determination to continue the process. We thought it was best practice to develop one. We've updated it a few times in terms of just the general annual review, but the comprehensive 5-year update now, once you have a GMP, you're required to actually go through a more formal process in the update. During the process of development of the GMP, it's in large part a process of interacting and consulting with our hydrologic consultants. And so it's more of a scientific discussion and feedback and review of the study and its presentation and additional details. Early on in this process, we made a kind of determination to have our water utility partners be the key fundamental partners of the GMP, branch out to a layer of stakeholders, as Stephen Ponsley identified. We're always open to discussions and feedback and comments throughout any time of year about our GMP, the best available science, and educating the public. If they're interested in coming in and sitting down and understanding our process, we're open to that. In terms of the formal process of adding comment, this public hearing process is the most appropriate spot for an individual community member, a ratepayer, one of our partners, whatever it might be. So I just want to get some clarification there. That public hearing spot is really probably the most appropriate because it's in front of our board and staff, as opposed to kind of being in the mix of the hydrologic studies and review of the science and data.
Okay. Yeah, there's lots of layers here
Yeah.
of concern, meaning hypothetical concern from our constituents. Okay. Thank you for those clarifying comments. Anybody have anything else? Okay.
I'll move staff's recommendation.
Ovalelio is there. I'll second that.
Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Director Morrell?
Yes.
Director Bender?
Yes.
Vice President Laliotis?
Yes.
President Finn?
Yes.
Record will note Director Randall is absent.
All right, very good. Moving on to our last action item this evening, item number 21. Item number 21, consideration of authorizing the general manager to execute an agreement with the Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation for the district's new Future Workforce Scholarship Fund. What an exciting item. It's very sincere, that was. I look forward to hearing about it.
Good evening again, President Finn and members of the board. It's my pleasure to present action item 21, consideration to execute an agreement with Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation for the district's new Future Workforce Scholarship Fund. District has a long history of service to our customers and community. Our dedicated board and staff who work diligently to provide high-quality electric and water services. We've worked to create and continue to grow a dynamic organization and culture to ensure that the district is a great place to work. And we've done a lot of collaborative engagement with local schools and community organizations to help foster a vibrant local workforce. That includes programs with the schools and SWEP, our educational and peer-to-peer stuff, bringing school children to the district for tours, attending high school job fairs, and collaborating with local agencies and organizations. The electric and water utility sectors have seen dramatic changes over the last few decades, over the last week, driven by technology, the environment, and customer expectations, and this is really only accelerating. The need to recruit and retain top-level talents remains critical to achieving the district's mission. And we've invested in compensation studies and organizational assessments to ensure that the district is a competitive employer in the utility sectors that we operate and serve. We've also invested in the creation of the Truckee Tahoe Workforce Housing to help address the housing crisis, which is a factor in recruitment and retention. And we're not alone in facing these challenges. So how best to grow our own, phrase we use. Local workforce has been a subject of internal discussion many years and at the board as well. Raising awareness of the important work that the district does and the professionals and the staff and the people that make things happen has been a key focus for staff and our communications over the last few years. Creating a scholarship fund to help foster the local future workforce needed by the district is one opportunity that's been identified in these discussions. And one area of interest was the traditional high school scholarships, but we also wanted to equally invest in the critical workforce around our crews and vocational and trades and certifications that the electric and water utilities rely on, but so do our support services. The board requested and the GM directed staff to investigate and propose a new scholarship program for the district. Funds were included in the board-approved FY '24 and '25 budgets in the amount of around $40,000 a year. A working group of representatives from Human Resources, Administration, and Communications was created in mid-2024. We considered college and vocational degree, what college and vocational degrees we needed and what existing scholarship programs looked like, since we weren't the first to do this. And we evaluated how to implement a scholarship program, including the application process, evaluation and award of scholarships, and administration of the funds. Staff's analysis quickly led to the Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation, TTCF. They're our local foundation, do a lot of work around housing, social service, philanthropy, and everything else. They had already existing scholarship programs serving both local college-bound high school seniors and those pursuing vocational or trade certifications. And they have evolved into the hub for local scholarship programs. And TTCF now is teamed with over 100 local agencies annually and organizations to administer their scholarship programs, and that they're all on their website, and they do a good job of promoting that. But that includes local agencies like Truckee Sanitary District in the airport, and then sister utility like Liberty Utilities. So the TTCF local high school college-bound senior scholarship program has grown to over 1.5 million awards a year, again for over 100 agencies. TTCF's vocational and workforce program is newer, but it's approaching $500,000 a year that they're distributing. I think equally important is they've developed a streamlined application and award process that includes a common application that students only need to fill out once, and then specific requirements from each scholarship fund. But they used to have to do them all individually, and that's not efficient. They consider demonstrated applicant work ethic and financial need, and those are two things we would consider as well. The award process is review of a diverse committee. I think it's over 20 people, but they look at the entire scholarships available in the entire applicant pool, and they find ways to make sure that the maximum amount of students and, future workforce have help. 10 years ago, the top 5 could win 80% of the scholarships because they're just super impressive, but that's not really an optimal allocation. TTCF only charges a nominal fee, 1.5% for these services. For our $40,000 a year, that's $600. And I can tell you that we could never administer and do all that work for anywhere near that amount. So I think it's a good deal for the district, a good deal for the community, and it gets the majority of that scholarship money to the participants. And we met with TTCF staff to help them inform our program description, since they've seen 100 of them. But also to get a proposal out of them for administering the scholarship program. Key district scholarship fund details include annual scholarships for both graduating high school and vocational, as we discussed, administered by TTCF under existing programs. We would establish scholarship requirements and then, establish a fund at TTCF. The district would replenish funds at the beginning of each year to fund the upcoming year's scholarship, and those would be board-approved budgets like we have already, and then future consideration. And then TTCF will use their existing scholarship committee to select the awardees, and our awardees would be presented to the board. Couple other considerations. To be eligible, the applicant must live within the district service territory and be a customer or be a dependent of district customer. So these are some of the details we have to work out with TTCF on how we verify that. They cover kind of the school district boundaries, which is Truckee North Tahoe. So we're just going to restrict the applicant pool to those that are appropriate for us. Scholarship applicants must meet the requirements of their programs, the timelines, the deadlines, what they require they submit. And we may require additional application requirements explaining why the district, just so we get a flavor for who we're awarding to. In terms of the actual scholarships, we're proposing 1 4-year technical degree for your college-bound seniors. And that would be $2,500 a year. We'd award the whole thing, but they'd only get it as they complete, each year. The applicant must attend accredited 4-year college university within the fields of engineering, computer science, information technology, environmental sciences, arborist/forestry, or hydrology. And we recognize that an exhaustive list wouldn't work, so we add or equivalent there, and we would work with the Community Foundation and the applicants. And then 1 2 or 4-year degree, and recognizing that not everyone's technical and not everyone's 4 years. Again, $2,500 a year, but awarded for the program they've applied to or gotten accepted in. And 2 or 4-year within the fields of business, finance, economics, communication, marketing, HR management, or public administration, and again, or equivalent in there. And the school scholarship cycles start soon, and they run through May. And the idea is that the graduating seniors know their financial pictures before they accept a university or not. And so we're just jumping in on that schedule. For the workforce scholarships, we're proposing 2 linemen school for $7,500 each. That's a very intensive 2 or 3 month program, and retaining and recruiting linemen's an issue statewide, almost nationwide at this point. And so we think that's a great investment for the district to help build local workforce there. Must attend accredited lineman school, such as Northwest Lineman College, that does courses in California, just for the record, and to become an apprentice lineman. And then in this case, funds would be provided 50% upfront, 50% upon completion. And then 3 utility-related certifications up to $2,000 each, and these are all annual. And there we're looking at water utility certifications, auto technician, construction standards, electrician, commercial driver's licenses, business, finance administration, clerk, notary, and certified translation, all skills that the district needs and relies on. And then these would be funded, provided upon completion of the program, and that cycle runs May through July. Funding for the Truckee Donner PUD Future Workforce Scholarship Fund is in the approved FY25 district budget under the GL listed. It's a little more than $41,000. Funding for FY26 and beyond will be considered in future district budgets. So we would put those in there for board consideration. And then any expenses charged by TTCF to administer the district scholarship program will be covered within the approved annual budget. And the recommendation is to authorize the general manager to execute agreements with Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation and transfer board-approved budget funds for the district's Future Workforce Scholarship Fund. And I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Wow, thank you very much, Stephen. First, I'm going to ask for public comment. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none, we will bring it to the board for deliberation, comments, and questions. What do you think?
I think it's a good thing.
As do I.
Yeah.
Shall we start with, we can just hop in because y'all are well-behaved. Yeah, please, Director Morrell.
Start at this end. I was really excited when I saw this agenda topic and the board materials, because I love the collaboration. I love how the PUD is actually getting out into the community and doing these, I don't want to say community awareness, but just getting out there. And I am very familiar with this foundation. I do have a high school senior at Truckee High, so we are going to be knee-deep in this in about 3 weeks, applying for various things. My one question is, and I'm in favor of this, by the way, I love it. My question is there some sort of retention pool of money or something to bring them back into the community? Because the scholarships are sending them out, which is great, but is there something to, like, to bring them back?
Yeah, so there are no requirements in the scholarship that they shall or must come work for us. And I haven't seen that in any scholarship that I've looked at. The hope is that, we know what a great community this is. We're working to build jobs that are sustainable for people to live here and be members of this community. And if we do a good job at making this a great organization, we're competitive in the workforce, and we've pointed them at that kind of jewel of public service and serving this community, that they would choose to come back here.
Thank you.
Did you want to say something?
I just wanted to expand on that. That's a fantastic question, because it's in the 12 years I've been here with the Truckee Donner PUD, we've kind of explored different ways or methodologies for the grow your own concept, and really getting folks to understand there's a great opportunity, a career opportunity with the Truckee Donner PUD or one of our neighboring public utility agencies. And I've heard a lot of feedback on, I would talk to graduated students that went off to college, that grew up here and can't find a way back. And so hopefully that, and I use the word hope cautiously, carefully, that understanding with our young students and future leaders of our community have an additional investment to return the favor, pay it forward. And if we can invest in our youth, they go out into the world, they gain some experience, and remember that part of what got them their education was our local agencies, they can come back And so that's one discussion. I've had several discussions with college-age students or recent graduates throughout my kind of tenure here with the district. The other part of it is, from a vocational perspective, it's still, even with our outreach and kind of communication and engagement, and our team is doing more and more and trying to find additional ways to do this, it's still surprising how many young folks in our community don't realize there's an opportunity with the utilities, the towns, the local public agencies. And so these vocational awards, we're hoping also seed that awareness. Once you apply to something and you go to a lineman school or you go to a water science associate's degree program here at Sierra College or whatever it might be, we're hoping that awareness really keeps them here or kind of triggers something to come back. Sorry for the long additional narrative there, but that's really, really important to us.
Can I just add may I add one thing? And I know Truckee High has, college fairs or career paths, and I could just see, the PD participating in that, to your point of, hey, by the way, we're here. And so, because not every kid does go to college or not sure what they want to do, but they like the lifestyle here or whatever, and so how to fit that. So I'd like to hear what you said.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. That was kind of at the top of my mind going, okay, how do we gauge the effectiveness of this? I mean, that's our goal. I mean, it's a goal. Obviously, it's not quite how we're in I think, a little different situation than some scholarships. Some scholarships are a little bit more broad and not directly tied to a goal of recruiting and retaining employees. But perhaps, since this is our first endeavor into this concept, that maybe at some point when it's appropriate in the future that we circle back and review the program, review the limits, review the past experiences, and be open to making tweaks and asking questions that could help answer just what you said. But I'm in favor of this. I think it's great. I would like to keep tabs on how we're doing and how effective it is in reaching our goal. And as with anything, if it's not effective, maybe there's some tweaks that we need to look at. So, but in general, I'm in favor.
Thank you both. Director Bender?
Yeah, full support of what Morel and Liliotis said, and full support of this program. I think it's great. It's how to engage with our local youth and say that there's an opportunity here. So, and we start that right after high school. So great timing. Yeah, full support.
I will comment, though, that I really think what the district has been doing, visiting the schools, visiting, all the way down to elementary level, is a great foundation for what we're doing here. So this is kind of complementary to that.
Yep, I very much agree with all of these statements. I think it is very helpful to draw the attention of our young people to opportunities that aren't necessarily a four-year college degree. I know the tools to go out into the world, there are many, many ways to make your way in this world. And I think a lot of times we get, young people in particular, get a little tunnel vision, and they don't, having a way to crack that open a little bit can be very, very valuable to them. And I'm also looking at this or thinking about it as quite a long-term investment, like how to bring them back. Young people, they have to go. They have to leave for a while. That's how they become, right? Competent people outside of our domain. But if we give them the tools and the opportunity, they at least maybe can come back. Because I think that's one of the challenges, is that they would go out into the world and they wouldn't be able to find a pathway back. It's something a job that exists here, the money that is able to support them here. And at least we're giving them the potential to return here to this community, which I know that a lot of us parents, it breaks our hearts to have our kids, my daughter, who went to the four-year college, and got her degree in wildlife biology, she makes like $30,000 a year, and she can't return to Truckee, right? My son, however, who went into a vocational, studied HVAC, got a certificate like that, and is making $90,000 a year. It's like, okay, dude. So those sorts of things, just really be clear with our young people of what the opportunities are, what they actually look like, and of course, encourage them to follow their hearts in this. But I think it's a very appropriate use of our energy and our funding. I think Director Laliotis revisiting how it's actually working. One of the things that my daughter in the scholarships she won, she had to maintain a GPA. I don't know if we want to consider something like that for our four-year recipients, that every year she had to present what her grades were for the next year to be awarded. And the paying for the vocational one, the paying for the certificate after, awarding the scholarship money after they've attained the certificate. I'm wondering if we should just give it to them on the front end so they can help pay for the school, because it is a challenge. I understand that it's taking a risk with those funds, that they may not complete the program, but I don't know. Because I know that a lot of kids, they get the scholarships because they need the scholarships, because they can't pay, and you have to pay up front for the schooling. They have to pay it, so just a consideration. I don't know.
That was
the
just
answer
for
to
one
that.
of them.
It was just for one of them, the vocational ones, the smaller, but those
The
smaller
$2,000
funds
scholarship,
can be
yeah.
really important to families.
For apprentice school, 7,500, right?
So the college-bound ones are paid annually at the beginning because we understand there's expenses from tuition to housing to books to everything
Right.
that goes along the way. So that meets that requirement. Lineman school, it's a big chunk of money, but there is upfront tuition and everything, so we propose that that be split 50% upfront and then 50% upon completion. For the certs and the programs and whatever, there's the fee to sign up to it, but it's kind of the time and the commitment and the studying to get to the test and pass it. And so those are the only ones that are set to the end. And it's hard to compensate people for hours or whatever and track it in a meaningful way. But the idea is, if you think I want to go here and I got to get a commercial driver's license, and there's, that you've applied and know that if you pass that test, you're getting these funds, it might be that motivation to actually take that test, study for that test, or do the steps to get there. But I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, I was just thinking of it in context of my experience with Truckee Meadows Community College in Reno, and you paid, it was only a 9-month program. It was a short certification program, but you did have to pay up front. So I think it depends maybe on the program and the certification, but, again, I don't know. That was just going off of the things that I experienced, and I know that it is a hurdle for some folks. That's why we give out scholarships. Okay, well, I think, anything
I
else
just have one
about
other
that?
comment. I don't mind the 50/50. I kind of like the incentive at the end. I think that give students motivation to finish, so there's something at the end. So I don't mind it
The
in that
50/50
structure.
wasn't- I didn't mind that one at all. It was the very final one, the certifications, which you only received money if you completed it, which I get it. I
Got it.
understand that we want to be somewhat conservative. We want to be wasteful. We want to make sure that the people receive an education and they don't.
And they're pretty short. I
Yeah.
think those vocational classes for the smallest
tend to
amounts.
be.
Yeah.
Pretty short, and we can revisit.
We can, exactly,
things.
we can revisit if it doesn't seem like it's
Yeah, if there's a
Effective.
pattern that emerges.
good enough. Just something to keep an eye on as we move through this evolution.
I'd love to move this one. That's okay?
Great.
Yeah. I'd like to move the staff's recommended motion to authorize the general manager to execute agreements with the Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation and transfer board-approved budget funds for the district's future workforce scholarship fund.
Thank you very much. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Great. Can we get a roll call vote?
Director Morel?
Yes.
Director Bender?
Yes.
Vice President Laliotis?
Yes.
President Finn?
Yes.
The record will note, Director Randall is absent.
Thank you all very much for that. Which brings us to our routine business. Item number 22, consideration to approve the treasurer's report for January 2025, which includes the fund balances for the month of October, wow, October 2024, and disbursements for November 2024. Oh, I miss Director Aguirre in this moment. Does any public comment on our routine business, the treasurer's report? Seeing no public comment, any questions, considerations by our board members?
I'll move to pay the bills that have already been paid.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Joe?
Thank you, Joe.
I'll second Director Bender's motion on routine business.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Director Morel?
Yes.
Director Bender?
Yes.
Vice President Laliotis?
Yes.
President Bender? President Finn?
Yes. Very
The
good.
record will note, Director Randall is absent.
Okay, thank you all very much. We do have a few closed session items this evening that we will be moving into closed session. Item number 23, closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, conference with labor negotiator, General Manager Brian Wright. And also item number 24, closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, Public Employee General Manager's Performance Plan Review. So we shall now
Do we move to adjourn to,
adjourn this meeting and move into
is
closed
that
session.
how you close out? You don't close out open session?
No, we leave it
Oh,
open, and then we'll come back into it, and then we will close the meeting when we are all done.
Correct.
Okay, great. Let's, no, no pounding the gavel yet.